Jack is a great guy. He's written a fantastic book. Everybody's talking about it. Go get it. And he's been my friend right from the beginning of this whole beautiful event. And we're going to turn it around and make our country great again. Amen.
Welcome back to Human Events Daily. You may notice that I am not Jack Posobiec. I'm just filling in for him for the last portion of his show because Jack is making his way, aforementioned, to a presidential roundtable on Antifa at the White House. So he had to jet out. But this is a great background. The entire show is a great background for us to take the final moments of this show to talk about leftist-driven violence, crime, hatred, and worst of all, the impetus to harm or assassinate someone merely for an opposing viewpoint. So let's first look at a would-be assassin, Nicholas John Roske, the person who wanted to take out Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in 2022. He was just sentenced to 97 months, or just about a little over 8 years, in federal prison, followed by a lifetime of supervised release. Roske, who now goes by the name Sophie, is transgender. Pam Bondi has called this light sentence woefully insufficient, as the prosecution had asked for a 30-year sentence, considering the domestic terrorism and political motivation. Well, now Roske told authorities that the leaked opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade was what made him, and I will still use that biological designation, as the reason he was upset, as well as the Uvalde school shooting. Now, what I find ironic is that this man who wants to be a woman was upset over a case that he would never find himself being involved in: abortion. He can't carry or bear a child, so why would he object so strongly? And then to use Uvalde as a motivation, well, how does using violence, meaning shooting to kill a Supreme Court justice, avenge the very thing you were upset about, which is a shooting? Well, let's now look at Luigi Mangione, the left's hero for taking on big healthcare, murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The words delay, deny, and depose were written on the ammunition cartridges. Does that sound familiar to you? Are you seeing a pattern with all of these not-so-cryptic messages premeditated and written on the bullets that kill? So Mangione, again, we will use the word here, alleged killer, disagreed with insurance companies' propensity to deny claims. So his solution is to deny the CEO his life. Just take him out. He's become a bit of a folk hero, with many young liberals celebrating him due to their hatred of healthcare executives. That sympathy alone is a major problem. And then you have Audrey Hale, the shooter who attacked students at Covenant Christian School in Nashville. This was a man who became transgender. It was going by the name Aiden Hale, as she wanted to become a man. So let me get this straight. Does becoming a man mean that you go kill innocent children? Well, that's what the left has said about toxic masculinity. But oddly, it was not a toxic male who committed this atrocity. It was a woman who wanted to be a man. Someone pissed off from having formerly been a student at this Covenant Christian school and presumably upset about Christian beliefs and teachings. Now, in diary entries that Megyn Kelly has obtained, the killer said she wanted to kill her own race and kill all the white children and had a hatred for the American people. So we do have an element of self-loathing as well. Now, where did she get that idea? Who reinforced that? Well, then let's turn to Thomas Matthew Crooks, the man who tried to assassinate President Trump. He had a double life, secretly brooding and planning his attack. He was shot and killed by Secret Service. But he was a man who quietly planned his attack as the poison of violence infected him. A quiet young man that was said to have likely been able to build a bomb in his parents' house, and they probably would have never even noticed. Then let's also review Ryan Ralph, the man who was planning on shooting Trump at his golf course. He failed, but he left a note stating the following: "I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It is up to you to finish the job, and I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job." Well, that's just lovely, isn't it? I guess if someone were desperate enough for the $150K, they'd be motivated. But is it money these people want? No, it's a principle. It's a value system. It's an infection of the mind. It's a poison. And that, of course, brings us to Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk. We'll still call it alleged. We know what he did. A man motivated to kill when he otherwise was described as a good student. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of these assassins or attempted assassins were described as good students. most of whom had no criminal record or indication that they would become killers. Robinson had very specific messages on his ammunition. Catch this, fascist. You heard Jack talk about that earlier. You don't premeditate messages like this without having something overtake your mind. It's not a crime of passion in the moment. So let's bring this current with the upcoming roundtable on Antifa, which President Trump has designated as a terrorist organization. All of the alleged assassins or would-be assassins may not have been members of Antifa, but they were certainly in favor of what Antifa believes in, which is an overthrow of the United States government through violent means. Trump's executive order reads, Antifa recruits, trains, and radicalizes young Americans to engage in this violence and suppression of political activity that employs elaborate means and mechanisms to shield the identities of its operatives, conceal its funding sources, and operations in an effort to frustrate law enforcement and recruit additional members. Individuals associated with and acting on behalf of Antifa further coordinate with other organizations and entities for the purpose of spreading, fomenting, and advancing political violence and suppressing lawful political speech. This organized effort designed to achieve policy objectives by coercion and intimidation is domestic terrorism. That's the quote from the EO. Many of these individuals have been inspired by Antifa and likely agreed with their beliefs and objectives. What is common is that there's a hatred of a person or a group of people that thinks differently. This, of course, extends to those carrying out the beliefs of the opposing group, which is why we see concerted efforts to thwart or attack ICE agents. They have to fear, these ICE agents have to fear going to work and leaving work because of a covert plot that attempts to harm them by groups like Antifa. And whether it's Antifa itself or those inspired by Antifa, it doesn't really matter. I've profiled a number of people today who took the Antifa mindset and put it into action. And so now, let's just go 30,000 feet here. When you see governors of states actively opposing the effort to detain or jail criminal immigrants, the governors now become an accomplice to the crime. Look at Portland. Look at Chicago, where J.B. Pritzker is suing the administration, the Trump administration, for deploying the National Guard. So does Governor Pritzker care about the law-abiding citizens of Chicago? Sure doesn't seem like it. He cares about the law-breaking citizens and non-citizens who commit crimes when he thwarts any attempt for Trump and ICE to merely do their job. This is why when we look at the big picture, we can't just lay blame on one group or one person. Sure, it's the media and their constant liberal posture. Sure, it's Antifa and George Soros's money. Sure, it's representatives of Congress who continue to say words to incite. Sure, it's governors like Newsom and Pritzker. It's all of them. Now, I'm not implying that Democrat representatives are encouraging their followers to carry out violence per se, but they are contributing to an ethos, a mindset of creating an enemy and putting them in the crosshairs, literally. It hasn't taken much muster for the latest wave of assassins to carry out their attacks, even if rudimentary. All it takes is one bullet. Some have done it in broad daylight, with security present. So what motivates them? Well, in my estimation, it's a mind virus, but not just the kind you catch randomly because you were around a few people who coughed on you. This is a willful mind virus, one in which you invite it into your head. It takes a bit of an effort. It's not an overnight radicalization because you had a heated discussion over dinner. This is a concerted effort. So the efforts of Antifa are not just the physical acts they commit of obstruction or violence. It is the highly infectious virus that they release into impressionable minds. Because you have to ask yourself, how did these young men, and most of them are men or men who wanted to become women, get the idea that their disagreement was worth killing for? In many ways, this becomes eerily similar to foreign terrorists like Hamas, the Taliban, or Al-Qaeda. They recruit, they train, but more importantly, they imbue their ideas into young people and get them thinking like they think. So they view their action as a noble cause, like a martyr. They are willing to die. This is the new face of domestic terrorism. It's domestic terrorism that isn't in the form of a local Al-Qaeda cell. These are your next-door neighbors. These are the quiet kids that might even have Republican parents, who went to school, who were indoctrinated by some alternative ideas, and then decided to silence the opposition. It's the very antithesis of free speech. So when you see this Antifa roundtable in the next hour, just understand, it's not just about those liberal cities like Portland or Chicago and how they attack ICE. It's about a value system that's poisonous, that's infecting young minds everywhere. They could be in your hometown. And if your kids are being influenced, be proactive and get involved. That's all for now for Human Events Daily. Jack will be